But I cannot believe that in the history of the White House, in that Oval Office, any president has ever spoken the words that I personally heard our president speak yesterday. You've seen the comments in the press. I have not read one of them that's inaccurate. To no surprise, the president started tweeting this morning denying that he used those words. It is not true. He said these hate-filled things, and he said them repeatedly. When the question was raised about Haitians, for example, we have a group that have temporary protected status in the United States because they were the victims of crises and disasters and political upheaval. The largest group's El Salvadoran, the second is Honduran, and the third is Haitian. And when I mentioned that fact to him, he said, Haitians, do we need more Haitians? And then he went on when we started to describe the immigration from Africa that was being protected in this bipartisan measure. That's when he used these vile and vulgar comments, calling the nations they come from shitholes. The exact word used by the president, not just once, but repeatedly. That was the nature of this conversation. When it came to the issue of, quote, chain migration, I said to the president, do you realize how painful that term is to so many people? African Americans believe that they migrated to America in chains. And when you speak about chain migration, it hurts them personally. And he said, oh, that's a good line.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another night of Dry Bones Connection on Wednesday night with Antoinette and my co-host, Brother Eddie. And we have a special guest tonight, Yaffa Bey. Dr. Yaffa she's a close personal friend of mine, and I just love her, and I'm just so glad that she has come on the show to talk with us tonight. And I know a lot of y'all are really looking forward to, hearing what Yaffa has to say. It open the chat room. So you have a question in the chat, a statement that according to Black's Law Dictionary, a person's place of birth is what data means page 1176 in reference to Allen Enemy Act.
Alien Enemy Act.
And they also
but
said
I said that.
Yes, I'm just telling you what they said. And they also said that
I said that until the 1970s.
Yes.
I said it became anybody born
No,
here.
they're saying,
and in the 70s it was snatched. But go ahead.
She had also said, I read that some people born near water, that they may have straight hair. The people that are born, that live in hot, dry areas may have tight curls to provide protection from the sun.
Okay, now, oh, crap, I wish I could get my computer on. Because of the viruses, it takes anywhere from 30 minutes to 2 hours to get it on, and, it keeps going on and off and on and off and stuff like that. But,
yes.
Well, not virus, I've been hacked. Technically, I've been hacked.
Yes.
That's really what it was. My phone was hacked, my computer was, I've been having problems with hackers. At any rate.
I have too, I understand.
No, you really
I overstand.
don't. You really have no idea. That's a whole other story, another day, another time. But there was a guy, and I forget what his name was. And, I got people that have everybody that got a dossier from me, they would have the evidence on this. But there is a catch, because when I give you a dossier, I shoot you certain emails, which I can't do right now because I don't have my own internet anymore. But I shoot you certain emails of evidence to back up your dossier. And there is a guy that said Africa and America were hot regions made for dark-complected people or Negroes. Specifically.
So they've been working with Harper a long time, huh? Yes.
It is known at the top and known by a lot of people at the bottom that our people are the true, authentic, autochthonous, indigenous, American, aborigines of America by blood. okay, or so-called American Indian. We are the real ones, and it is known by lots of people. I have a homegirl.
Yes.
You guys hear me talk about her often, Lady Nzinga, and she is an artisan. Okay, she makes pottery and she makes shoes and she purses. You name it, my sister can make it. She kind of reminds me of me. Difference is she does it, and I know how to do it. Don't always do it, but that's how she every day, all day. That's her. At any rate, she is also a what do you call these people that provide food for events? Caterer. She did a catering event.
Oh, okay.
She catered an event one day, and I believe the vast majority of the people there were other ethnicities, so-called white, so-called Asian, things of that nature, you know. And when it was all over, and she was dressed in there, she was all dressed up regal like she does. When it was all over, somebody, went up to the front and said something like, and don't quote me specifically because this was a good last year at least. They said something like, let's all acknowledge the caterer that prepared the food, so and so and so, and would sister like to stand up and say anything? And she stood up and said basically, thank you for having me. I hope you enjoyed the food. This kind of thing. And she said, most of you, like most people, when you look at me, you would think that I'm African American, but I'm actually American Indian, autochthonous American. And I know who I am. They gave her a standing ovation. Those people stood up and applauded like, whoa, she knows who she is. Most of these people don't know who they are.
Yes. And
Nzinga's darker than me. Okay?
Yeah,
She's darker than me.
What? Yaffa, they know who we are. The Amish people, they know who we are. And they're waiting for us. We have people from other countries, even people that are here, that we think are our enemies. I mean, we don't know. We really don't know who our enemy is, because sometimes our enemies are the ones that look just like us. Yeah, and unfortunately, we don't know who our friends, our comrades are either. So, and it's very hard to tell. And you can't go by color. Very hard to tell. Because we right now, I feel like we have no allies, but I'm sure that we have some. It's just I don't know who they are, and they almost need to manifest themselves. But I ain't mad at them. It's like I'm not going to stick my neck out as your ally until y'all get up on speed. Because, I mean, look how they shoot down, how people that look like us shoot down us. People have chopped me up for saying what I say that look just like me, out there beating my brains out verbally because I'm trying to tell my people who we are. I've been accused of being a liar, an agent, a misinformation specialist, a disinformation specialist, and I'm going to say it again like I said on air multiple times before. If I am an agent, I am one of the most rogue elements they have ever had. I'm an agent that's completely out of control. If I am one, they haven't figured out how to shut me up if I am one, even though they haven't figured out how to control you, Yaffa. They haven't figured out how to control you. I mean, if I was an agent, I would not have been able to say what I said without being shut down. Okay, I mean, people can say what they want to say, but the word is getting back to me that because of me, a whole lot of people are aware now of who they are and finding their way, and that's good. That's all I want. That's all I wanted for us, was for some of us to wake up. So we have to make the difference. Yes, I mean, and just like I said, that they know, they're the ones that are up top, like Donald Trump. He knows who we are. No, he didn't know in the 90s. He does now. Yeah.
Alright, my name is London. I'm from England. I guess we're going to speak about natives as far as Native Americans, or what they mean by the terminology of Indians, because we're not actually Indians. The actual Indian terminology actually came from when Christopher Columbus was actually going from Spain to the two Americas, but for somehow he ended up in the West Indies, and I guess he thought that we were the Indians where they was actually supposed to be going to. So so the terminology actually came from Columbus, you know, being traveling to somewhere else and ended up in the the North Americas instead. So natives, we are the natives of this land, but not Indians. In fact, the natives of this land is really what we call the Negroes, but they don't classify us Negroes as being natives, because they put another stigmatization on us as being African Americans, where a lot of us are not even Africans. But that's only formulated only after I would say during the early 50s, when a lot of black people came from Africa to here, or through the transatlantic of the early days of black families coming to America. So some came from Africa, some came from other countries, but the stigmatization of the 1600s slavery ended up becoming the main name to black folks, as now that every black folks ideology is that we're all Africans. Well, in reality, that's not necessarily true, because if that was true, then let's take what we call the Australians, which they call the aborigines. Why don't they call them African Australians? Because obviously they know they're not Africans. So it's the same thing with America. We're not actually Africans neither. We are natives of the Mexican known as America now.
So you said we are not Africans either. Now, are you referring to like me, you, us here?
Well, yeah, technically, yeah, because the reason is most Africans, if you look around you in modern day today, there's even certain traits that you could still see in real Africans today. Like, for example, they still speak their language. Some of them still speak French. They also, when you notice them with their children, they always really stick with that religious Muslim dressing ideas.
Now, you gave the excuse because you said because when you look at them today, they still speak their language. But why we don't speak our language? And why do the Africans speak French?
Okay, the reason why the Africans, going from the Africans' perspective, the reason why the Africans speak French is because during the times of colonizing the countries in the early, I would say the early 1500s, that's when the British and the French went over to Africa and they colonized the place and ended up putting the language there by colonizing them to understand the language that they spoke when they got there. Now, the reason why the natives never, as Native Americans in this side of town, don't speak our language is because they literally took away our language to conform their language here. So that way, here can become a major of their territory on their side of their colonizing the place, because when they went to Africa they couldn't really colonize the country like how they colonized America, so they was able to really more enforce their language in a brutal way. They came with guns and they killed a lot of the natives that were really here. And one of the things when you look at back in the Haitian history, why in the early history when they couldn't fight the Haitians, that's why they were one of the strongest people in the 18 or 1700s of war against the Haitians. They were very scared of the Haitians and so on, but for some reason they still was able to overpower the country and end up still pushing their language in there and controlling the country to where it is today. But that was, well, that's one of the reasons today why a lot of Puerto Ricans and Dominicans don't get along. They don't actually realize that they're actually brothers and sisters. And the Dominicans really know that the Puerto Ricans, so-called, would say they sold out during the slavery time when they colonized the place, and that's the reason why the Puerto Ricans don't like the Dominicans. So that's the real war between Dominicans and Puerto Ricans as to why they have conflict. They're fighting modern day today and don't know what they're fighting over. But if they did their history, they will understand that they're brothers and sisters and realize that because they reneged on what they were supposed to do back then, now there's a resentment, and that resentment still stands today. So yeah, so this is what it. So that's what it happened. So there's a lot of mixed information in history about Black Americans, about Puerto Ricans, Dominicans, who they are, but there's still that stigmatization of racism between us, because when the Dominicans were taken over by the so-called Caucasians, they intermingled in a way where they wasn't able to 100% dominate the black people in that country. So now they have like a half and half type of mentality, whether they want to be black or whether they want to be white. So this is why they have that kind of like tan look to them. But the Puerto Ricans are a total different story. The Puerto Ricans, majority of the real Puerto Ricans, they're really Caucasians, and they now use the terminology Puerto Ricans as to think that they are another race, but they're not. A lot of their ancestors are actually Caucasians. If you go into the deep of their DNA, you'll realize they're actually Caucasian. That's why they're literally white to the point of being a white person. So when you really do see a real Puerto Rican, like my aunt would say, when you go to Puerto Rico itself, the real dark-skinned Puerto Ricans like me, you will see them more living in the mountains or the kind of countryside. The city is flooded with the so-called Puerto Ricans that you see today, white looking. Because why? They're the derivative of the Caucasians. And that's who they really are. But they deny being Caucasians because they look at the history of the straight Caucasians and they don't realize that they are the offspring of those same Caucasians. And that's why the Puerto Ricans react the way they do, because they consider some of the nastiest type of people. They're very bad. But if you mingle with Puerto Ricans, their own people will tell you that, oh, they're grimy, they're this and that, because they have the traits of the white people in them, and that's what happens. But they don't realize it. Because my aunt, like I said, she's been to Puerto Rico, and she told me that most of the dark-skinned ones, like our family, you know, we're like in the suburban area or the countryside or in the mountains, and they actually disassociate themselves with them. So she's been there. So this ain't no like hearsay, or to say this is like second information. This is first-hand information that someone who's been there in my family can verify this situation that's been going on over there. So that's the thing.
The one to move forward. We haven't had a Kaepernick situation. We can wear I Can't Breathe shirts. I remember saying that Trayvon Martin was killed and murdered and was treated wrongly. I remember being able to say that and not have a problem with the NBA. So I'm like you guys. I celebrate American history, which is our history, every month out the year. And I hope that for parents and kids that go home, now we have the internet, now we have tools at our hand. And no, you aren't being taught Black American history in schools, but now we can still go out and find that history. It's not like when we grew up and maybe it was buried someplace in the encyclopedia. All you got to do is go type in some words and you can get it right now and understand where you've come from and how special you are.
Can I just end with this one thing? These four brothers sitting here, we didn't all come from Africa. And there was there was a country before 1492, and our history goes way beyond 1492. So you can't start us at 1492. We were always here.
That's history only from us players. No, we love you guys. Happy American history.
And y'all don't know nothing about no fucking African. I'm not no fucking African. Number one.
That's SaNeter talking.
Clear. That's SaNeter. Yeah, this SaNeter talking.